Okay, Leader, the meeting is now live streaming.
Okay, have we any apologies?
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Ahmed and Councillor Durnley.
Okay, thank you. I see the Chief Exec is here, even though he's on holiday. That's it, showing a lot of public interest. All right. Has anybody got any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Urgent items of business. Is it item 22, land at Littleborough?
No, Leader, it's item called the Digital Experience Strategy.
Which is 16A, yes?
That's right, yes.
Okay. But did somebody want us? All right. Sorry, it's next one. Exclusion of press and public. Have we had a request that one of these items not be excluded?
Yes, Leader. The Littleborough Civic Trust made a representation that the item on the land at Littleborough, which is on the private agenda, be put on the public agenda because they think it's in the public interest to disclose details of the location and use of the land. The response from the council was that the item has been restricted as it is likely to contain information relating to the finance and business affairs, both of the authority and of individuals. Furthermore, the information does need to be in the report so members can make a decision. Cabinet need to decide whether they want to keep
can
it
we
on
accept
private.
that advice from the legal people that it stays private?
Agreed.
Agreed. Is that agreed? Thank you. So it stays private. Okay. Minutes. Can I move on? Minutes. Are they a correct record?
Moved, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, it's usually Carol that does that, Dalit.
Right. Sorry, Alan, I can't open any papers tonight. So.
All right. You second it, will you?
I'll second it.
She's nervous.
All right. Can we agree that? Item 6, period 10 finance, Julie.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just give the highlights of the report. This is period 10 monitoring, and it shows that the council has an in-year saving projected of £2.5 million. It does recognise we've had significant COVID pressures, and we've funded £16.5 million worth of COVID costs through the government funding that was received and the compensation received for loss of income. The report explains that we are setting up 2 reserves, which will total £7.5 million, which are funded from the unring-fenced COVID government grant, and they are put into the reserves for pressures that will materialise in 21-22. The underspend will be transferred to an equalisation reserve, and this was agreed by Budget Council on the 3rd of March. The report also notes that we've set up a development fund reserve of the value of £500,000. This is done from the underspend within the finance control budgets. And this development fund is to attract external grants to contribute towards the funding and delivery of the council's objectives in relation to the regeneration of the borough. The report also shows in section 4.2 that the Health and Social Care Pooled Fund has a balanced position for the current financial year. And it also highlights there's some continuation of pressures within the high needs block for dedicated schools grant. It's likely in the end of 2021 we'll have a pressure of 1.8 million. We already had a negative reserve of DSG, and this will take the balance on that negative reserve to nearly 5 million, 4.97 million. In the capital section of the report, it shows that we're approximately spending 53 million. There is some rephasing of 7.5 million and some minor increases in the budgets. There's a significant deficit on the collection fund of 26.7 million, of which 21.3 million is funded through Section 31 grant that was received through the pandemic. This leaves a net deficit position of 5.4 million, of which the council's share of that will be 4.7 million. It has to be noted this is an improved position from period 8, and it's improved around £1 million. There are some specific recommendations within the report for Cabinet to approve. One of those being the payment of Link for Life's management fee. It's recommended that we pay this to Link for Life in 21-22 in the first 4 months of 21-22. And this is to support Link for Life in their cash flow and to help them mitigate the financial pressures of the COVID pandemic. This is detailed in section 4.14 of the report. It also recommends that 170k compensation payment that we've received from Middleton Marina is used to offset the legal costs associated with that case and use the remaining balance to replenish the asset management capital scheme for costs that have already been incurred. There are budget requests detailed in section 4.3 of the report, and it asks members to approve those requests, and also asks members to approve some capital budget switches, which are detailed in 4.6.4 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Carol, do you wish to add anything?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Chair.
Is there any questions or comments? I can't see any. So do you wish to remove the report, Councillor Wardle,
Yes, I'll move that report.
with all the recommendations?
Yes, formally remove it.
Okay, is that seconded? It is.
Second
Thank
that.
you. Can we agree it?
Agreed.
Can, thank you. Can I now move on? Item number 7. It's what you've all been waiting for. The formation of a community rail partnership for Calder Valley. Mark Robinson.
Thank you for that build-up, Chair. Hopefully I won't disappoint members. This report is the culmination of several months' work, really, with colleagues from both West Yorkshire and Greater Manchester to look at the potential to come together and form what's called a community rail partnership. The partnership would essentially work with community groups along the Calder Valley line, involving station and friends groups within Rochdale and Calderdale, respectively. Members will note from the report the purpose of this is to gives us the opportunity to sort of complement initiatives that we're already working on within our rail corridor strategy, particularly around community engagement. And the proposal in the report is that members agree to form and establish the rail partnership, that we agree that Rochdale initially would act as the accountable body, and that as part of this project that we establish a part-time post funded jointly between ourselves and Calderdale Council. In that respect, if I could just note, Chair, that in recommendation 2.3, where it talks about the creation of a part-time post, later in the report it does reference that will be funded out of the existing capital programme for rail corridor projects. If we could just clarify that the likelihood is that it will be a mix of both revenue and capital, and if we could just note that in respect of 2.3 that the post will be funded from a combination of capital or revenue budgets within the service, depending on the project as it goes forward. Happy to answer any questions, Chair, and if I hand over to Councillor Blundell, who may wish to follow up with some comments on the proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick thought, although I don't think I need to. I may need to declare an interest purely because I chaired there was a meeting held of community groups to see if they're interested in the CIP. I don't know if that constitutes a first meeting of it or the like, but I do plan to be involved in it. I'll take guidance of Asif. But yeah, no, I just wanted to stress the amount of effort that's going into developing around Rochdale stations. We already have the Rochdale Stations Alliance that I chair and Mark. Well, Mark does all the hard work, but the council's really involved with the stations in its borough. But a lot of it's about the physical regeneration. I think what this does is it gives the chance for us to work more with the community in and around the stations, and it's the social side to the rail corridor strategy. And not just that, we also with a paid member of staff, we'll be able to communicate with the public much better about all the plans that are going on. And it's because a lot of the time people say, we don't know what's happening, and a lot of the criticism, a bit like with the land sale, people want to know what's going on. And this is a chance for us to better communicate with the wider public. And when we did speak to a lot of the community groups along the route, including in Calderdale, there was a lot of support for this. Richard Licence, for example, who brought it to me in the first place, and Councillor Shearing have well behind it and have been active with other community rail partnerships around. And I think this will be a good thing for the borough. It will help us realise some of our regeneration plans and get more people involved with railways, which is obviously, what everybody wants.
Okay, I find it ironic after a phone call I had from you earlier this afternoon, but never mind. Anybody else wish to speak or query him, or should we allow Councillor Blundell to play with his train set?
I just ask a question, Alan. Sorry, I put my little hand up.
Yeah, go on.
Which two stations didn't want to be involved, John? It says two opted out, and what are the consequences of that if it's all on a line?
Councillor Robotham, if I answer that one, there is one of the stations was in Calderdale, but the one where there was some reluctance was Mills Hill. But there are further discussions taking place about that. However, it isn't fundamental to taking forward the project if not all the friends groups are involved. So it wouldn't stop us progressing the project at this stage. But my recollection was there was one in each.
Okay, so Sarah, is Mills Hill in your ward?
It's right next door, so I think we could support those discussions further.
Okay.
Can I add, leader, just to that though? I mean, even though they don't want to be directly involved, should members of the public or the like, want to contact this officer, it won't be like, oh, you're involved with Mills Hill, I live near Mills Hill, we're not speaking to you. It's more about trying to get that community group on board. Is the aim. It won't be about excluding people. It'd be about trying to get across the reasons why they should be involved.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? And I saw this week Mills Hill got a new community transport to the railway station as well.
They've got disabled access now. It's all being fancified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, but when we get the obviously when we get the Metrolink to Middleton, then it won't be as vital. But never mind.
Yeah, and electric bikes and scooters.
All right.
On them.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If we thank Mr. Robinson and Councillor Blundell and agree that.
Yes,
thank you. Next one is again you, Mr. Robinson. Is Mr. Moore here? I can't see him, so I'll leave it to you, Mr. Robinson. The joint development plan.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, this is a report which is really a procedural report in respect of the preparation of the revised plan to substitute or replace, I should say, the spatial framework, the plan known as Places for Everyone. Members will note that this report was also considered by Council last week, and essentially seeks approval to the establishment of a committee of the 9 Greater Manchester districts to progress the preparation of the plan. This isn't about approving the plan or the details of the plan. This is purely a report to establish the governance which will allow a plan to be prepared, and that plan will then be brought back through each relevant district for consideration in due course, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Do you wish to formally move it, Councillor Blundell?
I formally move it, Leader.
Okay. Is there any questions? No. Can we agree it?
Agreed.
Agreed.
And give everybody assurances that the normal democratic process will take part in all of this. Okay, can I move on? Item 9, the public protection order. Is it Chris, Iton and Helen? Or who's doing it? Yes, Chris,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will lead if I can, please. I'll quickly, I realise it's quite a lengthy report that's been produced, so I will summarise quickly with this. if I can start off saying on this is in relation to the Rochdale Town Centre Public Space Protection Order, which was introduced on the 23rd of July 2018. I've attached Appendix 1, which provides details of the order and the prohibitions. Just a reminder for those who are not familiar with a Public Space Protection Order, which I will refer to as PSPO in this report, it's a power that was introduced under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime Policing Act, and it allowed local councils to implement an order, for example, public space protection order, in response to particular issues affecting communities. That's providing certain criteria and legal tests are met, of course. A copy of the restricted area has been included in Appendix 2, which gives you an outline of that area. Members are going to ask to approve the commencement of the process to extend and vary the existing Town Centre Public Space Protection Order. The proposed variations to the order have been included in Appendix 3. You'll see that the amendments are highlighted in red there, so you can see what's been proposed. In terms of the restricted area, that is proposed to remain unchanged. That's included in Appendix 2 as well there. A further report will produce following a full equality impact assessment and a full public consultation for a final decision from elected members. The recommendation is members are asked to approve the commencement of the process to extend and vary the Rochdale Town Centre Public Space Protection Order. This will include ensuring the council is satisfied that the criteria for extension and a variation has been met, the undertaking of public consultation, the undertaking of a quality impact assessment, and a further report being submitted to members. There are two alternative recommendations there, which was to proceed and commence as is with no changes to the PSPO, or to let the PSPO as it is discharge or to lapse following the 23rd of July when it comes to an end. There are numerous reasons for that initial recommendation. There's about 7 pages worth there. I don't propose to go through them in detail given the report was shared in advance, but I will pick out a couple of the pertinent points, the key points there, and that is that it can be extended PSPO. We are coming up to the end of the 3 years for the current PSPO, and the ask is to extend that further for additional 3 years with a variation some of the current restrictions as highlighted previously there as well. I've included numerous data reports in there, picking out a couple of key areas such as the police noting a reduction. However, they are highlighting that they believe it's not being directly reported to the police. Between July 2018 and March 2020, there were 539 incidents linked to restrictions of the existing PSPO reported to Rochdale Council, particular community safety team. There are numerous supporting evidence there as well from the Commission CCTV services. An example being between the 1st of August 2018 and 30th of November, there's 817 incidents linked to the PSPO. Table 3 provides a breakdown of them incidents. Table 4 on 3.10, there's further incidents reported there, 349 between December 2020 and February 2021. So going through some of the further reasons for that, picked out some of the key evidence from the current restrictions, the reasons why we will look to extend that if we can based on the evidence, and also where there's been a reduction, why we believe there's been a reduction, how the PSPO has been successful in that as well. In terms of the actual FPNs as well, that's been broken down in numbers to give you an indication of how many's been served. That'll be 42 fixed penalty notices issued within the current PSPO timeframe. There's a breakdown there as well. In terms of those that were issued, particularly those with our approach of educate, engage and enforce approach, we look to only issue FPNs where it's necessary and proportionate to do so in line with the acts. Further information provides members with support card, how we do that, how that links into our homelessness approach, ensuring that we abide by certain policies, procedures and partnership models that's implemented so far within Rochdale. Section 3.23 provides an overview of how our enforcement links in with the support that we have from the partnership as well. Just going further down, the PSPO enables the council and partners to deal with the identified behaviour that could have and had a detrimental impact on the quality of life in those in the locality. based on the evidence and the data that's been provided to date, it's reasonable to conclude that the incidents did and continue to have a detrimental effect on quality of life. So there's some of the key reasons for the recommendation. Key points for consideration. It is recognised that a PSPR has the potential, if mitigating factors not put in place, to adversely affect disabled people with mental health issues and also people with complex needs who experience multiple disadvantage. So that's recognised for our initial equality impact assessment screening exercise. There's further key points for consideration within that report. One most notably, again, is that we are adopting a multi-agency approach to the enforcement of the Public Space Protection Order, and it provides further information there. And it also, the report gives you an insight in terms of some of the wider strategic plans, such as the Greater Manchester Police and Crime Plan, and also the local community safety plan, and how that links into our approach. In terms of risks and policy implications, just to be mindful again, there is some potential there in terms of the Crime and Policing Act. It allows for the PSPO to be challenged via statutory appeal by an interested person. It was done so last time round when the initial Public Space Protection Order came in, or was going to come into effect. That challenge was subsequently withdrawn. A comprehensive EIA, that's an equality impact assessment, will be completed, and it will inform the findings of the consultation as well, which will commence shortly if members agree. The equality impact assessment initial screening form is attached to Appendix 6 to give you some more information on that as well. It's proposed a period of consultation to gather further views, particularly those that could be affected by the PSPO, so that, to ensure that impacts and protected characteristics is fully understood. The consultation will be published on the RBC Consultation Hub website. It's also proposed that all businesses and residents within the area of the PSPO will receive a letter to ask for their comments. The key stakeholders such as Petrus, Sanctuary Trust, Rochdale Borough Housing, Action Together, Otwood All Sixth Form, etc., will be directly involved as well. So that's a quick overview of that report, Chair. Happy to take questions or provide further details if necessary.
Alan, you're on mute.
Can't see anything in chat.
No, I said comment.
Can't see anything in chat, but just go on then.
No, just to ask, because last time, obviously, the PSPO was a good thing and something that I supported, and a lot of the businesses in that area will show a lot of support for. I've already received, I won't say complaints, but also support for the idea of this from a number of businesses in and around the Walk area and Bailey Street, because they're starting to see more street begging again, and they're also very concerned and said the problems got worse because of the proximity of the site at the Broadfield Hotel. So it's easy for people in that situation to walk down and street beg and solicit money in the town centre. Now, you know, albeit there will be vulnerable people involved in this, and I'm happy to hear there's a quality impact assessment taking place. But there is also a criminal element to this that must be stamped out. And one of the things the businesses have raised is that the thing you raised about multi-agency approach, the people who are there who are criminals, not the people who find themselves in a bad situation, but the people who are there to make money out of this. Are we doing enough to get the police to crack down on those individuals? And if we do get this PSPO put in place, how are we going to use the information we collect to make sure that's happening? Because that's the bulk of what's happening as well. There's too many people there who are making a good living out of it, and you know, these people are criminals. Not the people still on the street. There's necessarily people dropping them off and the like, and there's businesses watching them do it.
Okay, just don't know it. Comment from Neil Emmett.
Thank you, Chair. Just to re-emphasise what Councillor John Blundell has just said, we went through this whole process, as I'm sure you can remember, Alan, last time when we brought in when we looked at putting this in the town centre. We got a lot of people initially complaining, saying that we were, we were being harsh on beggars and harsh on homeless people. Well, first of all, most of the people who are begging are not homeless. But the difficulty we've got is, as Councillor Blundell has just said, there is a very criminal element to this, and there are some people who sadly end up begging on the streets, not just in Rochdale, but across the whole of Britain, who have been trafficked here from overseas and end up begging. And it's the criminals who are perpetrating this that we do need to crack down on. And it's quite true, and I can well believe what some of the town centre businesses have said, where they've seen people being dropped off in the morning by some of these unscrupulous gangs. The poor person's left to beg all day, then they're picked up at night and they're just taken back to somewhere where they're given sort of a meager accommodation and meager foods, and the money that they've begged all day is taken off them and is shared, and is given to the people running these criminal elements. So just to re-emphasize what Councillor Blundell has said, I do hope that we are going to take some further action on this and work with the police to do this, because it's modern slavery, and this sort of thing should not be happening on the streets of the United Kingdom in the 21st century. Thanks very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I echo what the two councillors have said. When I do walk around the town centre recently, and if I go to the bank, it's amazing how the beggars always gather at the bank, and the people they tend to pick on are the young students from the sixth form college. And another area where there's a lot of begging goes on is Worldwide Cash and Carry up in Milkstone in my ward. Okay, is there anything to answer there, Chris, or you've heard everything?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just, again, in terms of that reassurance and picking up some of them comments from the councillors, we did establish the town centre operational group for this purpose, to improve the information sharing, the intelligence gatherance with partners such as the police, our colleagues within the council as well. So we have got a multi-agency meeting that does occur, and we are mapping that out, gathering that information, intelligence, trying to engage. Where there are opportunities to investigate criminal acts, we will do so with our colleagues at Greater Manchester Police through the public consultation. Hopefully we will pull through some of that information from the businesses, the key stakeholders, so we can look at that. If there are proposals to extend PSPO areas, for example, we'll consider that based on the evidence. So just to reassure, we are looking at that through this town centre operational group, and the public consultation should hopefully provide us more information as well.
And the Early Evening Economy Board. Can we agree that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Can I move on? There's a list of CPOs now. I think there's 5 of them. All right. And this Peter Maynard's here, but I understand he's going to not speak tonight. Now, if that is the case, this will be the first meeting I've ever been at where Peter hasn't spoken. So I don't believe him, but I understand that, do I call you Banu or Sahida?
Sahida, Chair.
Sahida, I understand he's letting you present all the reports. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
Okay, can I first of all thank you for all the work you and the team have done. Okay, and start off with the first one, which is 35 Royal Barn Road.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Sahida Banu. I'm the Housing Project Officer, and I'll be presenting the next 5 CPOs. If I may, Chair, just quickly give a little bit of background to obviously the impact of empty housing and what that's kind of having on the borough. So in terms of empty properties, it's been recognised that they do have a serious impact on the viability of communities and within the borough, not just nationally, obviously locally as well. I think they're having clear issues in terms of having sites which are sitting empty for a long period of time. It affects the amenity of the local environment. it affects the visual amenity of neighborhoods, and also in some instances, it does cause a lot of antisocial behavior as well as some security issues as well to that empty property. And more widely, the issues it causes to neighbours when they try to obviously sell a property is also of concern. Rochdale, as you know, has a shortage of homes, and empty properties can provide invaluable supply, particularly when there are quite a few thousand people on our housing register. So there's a real chance of these properties being brought back to use and being affordable as well. The local authority has been given a wide range of powers and incentives to bring empty homes back. And this is the process that we really follow whenever we look at any empty property. So they're obviously not kind of limited to the fact that there are council tax exemptions, premiums, enforced sales, and compulsory purchase order. Now, compulsory purchase order is usually the last measure, and we only take that when we've really kind of exhausted everything else. And the government has given us powers under the Housing Act as well as the Town and Country Planning Act to really kind of bring and acquire these sites. However, if during this process a site is brought back into use, then the local authority won't need to actually pursue that CPO anymore. So thank you, Chair. If I may also request, Chair, that I'm aware that there are 2 written representations today. So if I can deal with
can I stop you there and
yes.
say, can I do them individually?
Okay.
So that if members can do it, and then the ones is, can I first of all say to you that this is one of the most popular policies with councillors, I see also threads, and with residents, because of the fact we will be on the doorstep shortly, and I bet you now that many of us will be taken to a property and saying, what are you doing it about that? I had one in Milnrow years ago, which was regular. I remember, I'm going back many years, when as a sort of lesson to the then would-be MP, Simon Danchuk, I sent him to this house next door to it and met him again an hour later when the residents had vented their spleen at about this thing. So we'll do them individually, and we'll start off with 35 Royal Barn Road. Does anybody wish to comment on that one, or is there anything to add?
So if I may, Chair, I'll just give a quick background to this particular site.
Well, you don't need to, because okay. I've got no comments and we've all read the report. Okay. So, okay. There'll be you'll get plenty of time. There's a couple of others.
Move it,
anybody?
Chair.
I haven't got anybody for that one.
Move it, Chair.
It's moved. It's seconded.
Seconded.
Agreed. Thank you. The next one is 20 Olive Street, Haywood. Is there anything to add to this? I'm not muted. Is there anything to add to this one?
Move it, Chair.
It's moved. Is it seconded? It's agreed. Right, it won't be the same next. Right, the next one is the navigation. Okay, do you wish to add some things first? And then I've got a whole list of speakers, including myself. All right, I've got you, John. I've got several speakers on this, plus myself. Okay, Saida.
Thank you, Chair. So you may be aware that navigation in is on Drake Street. Now, this is quite a prominent location. It's just as you approach from the town, from the railway station to Rochdale Town Centre. It's in a prominent location on the kind of strategic highway network. And I think it has been empty since 2009, and there are signs of neglect and extensive deterioration. Now, the property, by virtue of its poor and neglected condition, has caused significant visual harm to the area. There have been reported incidents of unauthorized entry into the building, security issues as well. Now, this is a site, and I think going back to my point at the beginning, this is a site which can be brought back into housing, and in terms of kind of working with our registered partner and make these homes affordable. Now we are asking committee to authorize the making of this CPO, which will allow us the power to begin the necessary steps to kind of work up and build that CPO case and have that presented in front of an inspector. We are also seeking approval and authorization that the head of service for housing, in consultation with the cabinet member for the portfolio holder for quality of place and the chief finance officer, to proceed with the CPO once an understanding of the financial implications have been determined, and also for you to note the Human Rights Act below and included within this report.
Okay, yes, this is in my ward, but it's not just because it's in my ward. As you said, it's a most prominent site. Asif, could you just give me a legal guidance? I understand there's a member of the public who would like to speak, but we don't normally allow people to speak at the cabinet. So could I have some guidance, please?
Certainly, Chair. It's to your discretion, obviously, on the basis of, as Chair, you can permit a member of the public to speak. If it would assist, I would just clarify that, as Sahid has quite rightly confirmed, CPO is a process. That's not to say that it's a be-all and end-all decision by Cabinet today. If during the course of that process a site is brought into use by other means or by negotiation or discussion, it would not necessarily mean that the Council will be obliged to follow through on the decision of Cabinet today.
Okay, so I think I know the gentleman, and I'm just flabbergasted that he's not brought it in, and I've seen some of the background stuff, and I'm slightly surprised that we've had to bring him to a CPO to get him here. So I'll bring in Councillor Blundell, and I probably will allow him to speak at the end. Go on, John.
I just wanted to express, and I wish this one had come first because I'm sure it's the same for the other two buildings that we've just agreed to. It's just I'm not all fair with those buildings as such. But the navigation in is the perfect example of how somebody just thinks they're allowed to let the entire team down, and why councils were given these powers in the first place. The councils spent literally hundreds of millions of pounds or had spent of public funding in the town centre. You've got a brand new metro link that runs between the railway station and the town centre. We've just had a new shopping and retail development. We've got the Heritage Action Zone, which is working with Heritage England to develop the area. And then you've got the navigation in, and for some reason, the person who owns that building thinks it's entirely acceptable to let it fall into rack and ruin. And let the entire street down, and then presumably is here tonight to say, well, the council shouldn't exercise its powers that the government's been given to them. The reason we was given those powers is because of people who own buildings like you. If this was my house, there's no way I would let it look like that, and I'm pretty sure yours won't. So I don't see why a building that you've bought at some point in time is allowed to look like that and drag our town centre down. When you drive into Rochdale from Milnrow, that's one of the first things you see in Drake Street. And when you are entering the town centre to go down Drake Street and onto Water Street, you have to drive past that and often have to sit and look at it. It's completely unacceptable. There'll be other properties that are up for CPO, and as the leader said, it's very popular. But I mean, when the person does speak, I think it would be good of them to explain why they think it's acceptable that the building has looked like that for so long. Because if I was them, I'd be very, very embarrassed that a property I own is letting the town down like that.
Sarah.
Yeah, mine's a question really, Sahida. Have we had the navigation come before us before? Didn't we have it as a potential CPO, and then we went back to the owners and they promised that they would make it good? somewhere in the back of my head, I think this is the second time it's come to us, and we did go back and made some allowances, and they promised different things about what they were going to do with the navigation, which all sounded great. Am I wrong? I remember it happening.
If you listen, right, I don't know, Peter, because I think Saeed might not have been here then, but this has been on our radar for an awful long time. Peter, has this been before?
No, it hasn't, Chair. It was on the report in the first place when we presented a list of priorities, a list of member-led priorities for CPO in the very first place, and we gave a brief update on each of the cases and the reason why they were included on that priority list as we went forward. What I would say is we have worked hard since that priority list came into force, and before then, we have worked hard to try and engage with the owner and have provided various options, none of which have been taken up.
Okay, I'll give permission for the gentleman who owns the property to speak and answer Councillor Blundell, because I don't want anybody to say that we didn't allow debate.
Good evening, everybody. I've heard the comments that have been raised. Some of them, I mean, we've just had the comment there that there's been engagement on behalf of the council. That is true to some extent, but it's not the full extent. The property is now under the heritage zone, so there are restrictions as to what can and can't be done with the property, which has caused an issue. Has Chair got a letter from Mal Percy, the architect?
I have, and I know Mr. Percy, because I think it was Mr. Percy who I put in contact with you several years ago, and That's Mr. Correct. Percy said he has found it very difficult to engage with you, and you have not engaged at all, and he's done no work for you for 4 years. I checked with him before this night's meeting.
Right, well, that contradicts the letter that you've got in front of you, so are you saying that?
Well, I'm just saying to you, all right, so why, will you answer the question of Councillor Blundell, why have you not done anything? Because the Heritage Action Area has not been there that long, and how long have you owned this building?
With regards to the allegations of neglect and dereliction.
How long have you owned the building, sir?
10 years.
Right. And do you agree that it is in an absolute state and it's in a right mess?
Could you clarify what you mean by a state and a mess?
Well,
I can clarify, Leader. I can clarify quite easily. If you go onto Google Street Images, as I have, and you look at that row of buildings, there's one being done up at the end, which is now printers. You've got your decorating outlet on the side. There's one building that sticks out like a sore thumb, that's got grass and moss and everything growing out of its drains. It looks like problems with the windows on the roof.
That's factually incorrect, because those gutters have been cleaned. So the picture that you're looking at is actually
right. So they've been cleaned. But the picture which I'm looking on Street View, I've just got on now, was a mess. It looked like that for years, several years. It looked like that.
All right, John.
Can I finish? Well, let me finish. One finish. I just want to finish my point, as you did bring me in. You can go back through the years, and I'm sure if I drove up, there might have been some minor alterations, but fundamentally, that building has looked a mess for years. And the reason the council has these powers, as I said before, is to try and get landlords to take action, or we can take action for you. So there's no point, saying that we're going to let up. We want to see something happen with the building, or the council can exercise its powers. That's all we're saying.
Which I've got no problem with.
Right then, so we will make the CPO tonight. You will then have the opportunity, as you've had for a long time, to do something about it. Because I understand either Sahida or Mr. Maynard will tell me the process just doesn't occur because you have rights and everything else. So therefore, but unless we make the CPO tonight, none of us really feel that you will do anything and so that's why we're doing the CPO. So, okay, you have after tonight, you have the chance to engage with the officers and do something, but otherwise the CPO starts from tonight, and will either Peter or Sahida tell me how long it takes?
So thank you, Chair. In terms of the CPO process, like I say, this process allows us now to start that work in actually building up that case. So throughout this process, we will be always continually working with the owner or the developer to bring this site forward. Now, if there is no cooperation, then that site will be expedited to the inspector relatively quickly. However, if there is cooperation and meaningful discussions to bring this site forward, and once there is once that property is brought back into use, then that CPO will end.
Okay, do you understand that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Right, you do? Okay, so do we agree the CPO?
Agreed.
It's agreed, right. Thank you. Can I next move on to 225 Rulymore Road? And again, we've had a letter from a Mr. Doggett, I think it is. Do you wish to add anything, Sahida?
Just the fact that this is, again, another empty property which has suffered significant disrepair. There's significant fire damage. We've tried to meaningfully engage with the owners of the property, but given the fact that we have had no meaningful discussions with them, and we've exhausted all the other options available to us, we feel that we've now had to start this process of the CPO. We currently have no plans for the site. No plans have been discussed with the council. So it's really starting this CPO process. And again, Chair, like with all the other CPOs, this doesn't exclude the fact that we will try to have that voluntary discussion with the owners throughout this whole process, should they contact us.
Well, haven't they contacted? Isn't that letter an intent, a contact?
So what we would need is we would need firm proposals from them. So that contact letter is just saying that they have some proposals that they're looking into, but at this stage we don't know what those proposals are.
Right. So you'll reply to him that we need firm proposals. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions, comments? Can't see any. Can we agree that one?
Agreed.
It's agreed. And the final one is it 3 Croft Street?
Again, Chair, this one is another empty property. The title information on this and the details of the owners are unknown. And again, this is a property which is in disrepair. And what we would intend to do with this is very similar to all the other properties, bring this property back into the use for housing, and work with a registered partner in delivering affordable housing for this site. And again, under the powers under the Housing Act, we would like to start this CPO process.
Okay, I see no comments again. If there's nothing, can we agree that one?
Agreed.
And can I thank both officers?
Just the council, just to say the ward councillors are very in favour of this happening. The ward councillors are very in favour for the same reasons we spoke of the navigation in.
Okay. Okay, can I thank both the officers for all the work, and can I again ask that we have regular updates?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I move on? Item next is item 15, capital investment, and I think schools. I think it's Faye.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm presenting a report on the annual capital investment in schools report, which shows the annual income from the Department for Education for school buildings and seeks approval for its expenditure. So the income comes from 3 streams: the schools condition allocation, basic repair and maintenance, the devolved formula capital, which is also for other capital works, and the basic need funding, which is for schools growth. The report seeks approval for capital expenditure of 3.5 million on repair and maintenance, and the basic need programme of 22.9 million.
Okay.
So are there any questions?
Well, just a minute, that's my role. All right, that's trouble with education. Once a teacher, they always want to thing. Do you wish to add anything, Councillor Eakin?
Just to say that it's what we need to get on with, really. It's new capital programme, and as far as the capital programme from the schools, it's about roofs and the boilers for the schools. And the Education Act itself says that by we contribute towards the spiritual, moral, mental and physical development of the community by securing that efficient primary and secondary education are available. So we're meeting the words of the Act. So yeah, we need to get on with it.
Okay, so you're moving it. I see nobody
I'd like
else.
to move it, yes.
Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, right. You get another bite of the cherry, Faye. New secondary school, Littleborough.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this is seeking the approval of the disposal of the Littleborough playing fields. It's seeking the approval for funding of £1 million to support the delivery of the new secondary school, which will be funded from the basic need allocation. That funding is for road infrastructures around the site to get a better access for the new secondary school, and it is a requirement from the DFE. The report also seeks the delegation of the final sign-off of the heads of terms document, which is almost ready, and the delegation of the appropriate legal works associated with it. If I could just say briefly, on the Littleborough playing fields, they were originally the playing fields of the old high school, which was closed 31 years ago. They have been open as old as the older high school's playing fields were, and have been accessible to the public for over that time. I should say that the Littleborough Primary School still uses the playing fields, but they do have significant issues of dog fouling, which is not really brilliant for a primary school, which is why they use it as little as they do. Also, with regards to the disposal, we do need to go through a process of Secretary of State approval for both the change of use of the playing fields and for its disposal. That the details needed for that application will only be forthcoming once we've got to the point where we're almost putting planning permission in. So we need extreme detail on that, which is why it can't be done before the plans for the school come forward. What the Department for Education is saying is effectively they want the disposal approved to move forward at this stage with the secondary school, to give them comfort that essentially it's wanted by the borough, and there's obvious details in the Appendix 3 in the private appendix about the land transfer that is required to deliver the new school. Again, the delivery of the highways infrastructure and that land transfer is a condition of the Department for Education for the delivery of the school. The school is being funded entirely by the Department for Education. It'll be a 150 place per year secondary school, meeting the needs of the locals. Thank you.
Kieran, do you wish to say anything else?
Just to say that there is a current shortage in Littleborough, as we're all aware of, so we need to get a move on with it, really, and we do that by, so I'd like to move that we dispose of the playing field and that we approve the Section 151 letter to cover the highway costs.
Okay, Councillor Emsley, before I formally move the vote.
Just to remind people that alternatives are being sought, and the playing pitch strategy is mentioned at 6.2, that the playing fields are in the council's playing pitch strategy. And there is a requirement for a community use agreement as part of the planning approval for the school, just to make sure that people understand that they're not going to lose playing pitches. Thank you.
Councillor Blundell.
Just
brief,
because,
please.
just because I've not received just a personal interest, I'd like to see Claire given I live off one of the streets on one of the maps before I vote. I just realised when I looked at the map in great
all right.
detail.
All those in favour, please show. That's agreed. Thank you. Can I now move? I think it is the exclusion. Oh no, the 16. Is it 16A? Sorry, digital. All right. Well, I can go to sleep now, can't I? Who does digital?
It's Caroline, Chair.
Oh, well, I can definitely go to sleep. All right. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so this report is presenting the digital strategy. The strategy sets out a vision and outcomes for digital transformation across the borough. It's been co-designed with various stakeholders. It's aligned with the GM digital blueprint and the council's corporate plan. An equality impact assessment has also been carried out, which has been attached as an appendices. It's deemed that the strategy will have a positive impact as we seek to tackle the digital divide that exists in our borough. I'm not going to go through the strategy content. I am aware that the document's previously been shared with Cabinet members as part of the design and consultation process, and we've incorporated any feedback. Just to point out that one of the asks from Councillor Rowbotham was to include some content specifically around tackling digital exclusion and data poverty, and that has now been incorporated into the document at page 5. In terms of the next steps, we intend to further consult on the strategy and gather some more data and information about the digital position in our borough, establish a system-wide digital experience steering group who will support development of a delivery plan to accompany the strategy, which will obviously identify specific works and projects that we want to take forward, and obviously to understand the costs and benefits of any of that work or projects. The intention is to present a final version of the strategy and the delivery plan to Cabinet in July 2021. So the ask today is for Cabinet to approve the document and the next steps.
I don't see any comments, so you've silenced everybody, Carolyn. All right.
Thank you.
Whose portfolio is this, please?
I think it's mine, Alan.
Yeah.
Right. Do you wish to formally move it then?
Yes, I'll formally move it.
Okay, is that seconded? Okay. And if we are going to do digital connectivity, can we put Councillor Wardle at the top of that list?
Hey, I'm on tonight, you know.
You are, I am impressed. All right.
Video as well.
Yeah. And are you on from home?
Yes.
All right. Oh, right. Well, we are impressed.
Yeah, we worked very hard to.
You can hear the motorway in the background.
Yeah, but Neil, the very fact that she's on is a triumph.
No, I'm saying, but if you've ever been to Carol's house, she basically lives on the M62, so you can hear the lorries trundling past when you're there.
Okay.
It's obviously a good strategy, Caroline, because it's clearly working.
Yes. All right. Okay, we've agreed that. Can we now exclude the press and public?
And if Louise can stop the live stream, Leader, we can move on to the private agenda.
Okay.